chapter 2 of We Who Pave the Milky Way, and a friendly reminder that I will be taking breaks for tea. I will not be editing out nearly as much as you might see in other audiobooks. For example, the breaths or the cats or whatever else could go on during this crazy, chaotic reading. The last video was chapter 1, so if you missed that, make sure to go back and watch it. And let's go ahead and get started on chapter 2. And I am drinking Victorian London fog tea, if anyone was interested. It's very good. It's like vanilla and lavender. Okay. All right. Let's get to chapter 2 here. Chapter 2. I sit outside my apartment, back against the wall, with a bowl of reheated black mashed legumes in my lap. I don't taste any flavor as it goes into my mouth, but I'm hungry, so it keeps going in. No one is in the corridors yet. They all spent restless nights and will sleep in as late as their bodies allow them. I've grown accustomed to the permanent black rings around my eyes. I have the same dream every night, which means every night I don't get much sleep. I stopped trying to get adequate sleep shortly after I moved to Unit B. The air is heavy on Yawk with the heat of over 50,000 warm bodies that are the inhabitants of Unit B. There is no breeze that lifts the stench of sweat as the vents near the top of the dome barely push out air. The only sense of cool comes from leaning up against the thick block walls of the apartments, which are made of some type of natural material likely mined from the planet. It's not rare to see groups of people pressed with their backs against the wall for relief. Maybe today I'll take a trip to Yabi. The others think I'm weird for having my transporter craft license. It was a little more popular to get a license in Unit C, where I grew up, but here in Unit B, I'm an outlier. Even when I asked Saul if he wanted to join me on a trip to Yabi, he just mumbled something about flight sickness and turned bright red. To get a transporter craft license, you have to take all the assigned lessons on the computer panel, which is assigned to your apartment. After I completed the lessons, a command key to control the transporter craft's basic functions was delivered to my apartment. Getting the home's comm panel away from my mother and siblings was hard, so I frequently woke up early and took it away before they were awake. I used to sit in the transporter craft that I wished to pilot and listen to the computer panel telling me what to do. I felt productive back then. I had a dream, but I never thought that I would do it. I never thought I'd actually leave. It was just a fantasy. When I left, it was almost as big of a surprise to me as it was to my family. After I left, I was too much of a coward to go back. It didn't matter how much I regretted it. I pull out my fenouil from my pocket. The instrument was made so that you could carry it at all times. You expand it by pulling out the metallic neck and spreading out the sides like a fan. I pluck a string and it has a light, twinkling sound to it. I've set down my bowl for now, and I pick playfully at the strings, not trying to make a sound. Unit B wasn't the dream that I'd hoped it'd be. I thought that I would escape the weight of my childhood by leaving Unit C, but I still have yet to feel the freedom I expected. It was nice to finally have my own space, my own choices, but then the boredom came. At that point, I could have returned home, but I didn't. It wasn't long after moving into my apartment in Unit B that I started taking trips to Yabi, the only other planet that humans can travel to. There are plenty of species on the planet Yabi, but it is rare to see a human. Yabi is what might be referred to as a recreational planet. I stab my spoon at the mush in my bowl. They have real food on Yabi, not like the Yalkian stuff ordered from comm panels with the Levindian allowance of bounty. Yabian merchants line the streets with the smell of meat cooking in hot pots and on stickers. I leave my bowl on the ground and stand up. The corridors are quiet. I want to run off on my transporter craft and get a meal improvement, but my feet take me in a different direction. I sigh, but don't stop walking towards Saul's apartment. Talking to him isn't going to do any good, but I'm going to lose my mind if I have to watch Samuel and Emmanuel sulk around until he comes back. Saul's apartment isn't far from mine, which is another reason why I feel like I can't just go off to Yabi without trying to talk to him. If I talk to him before the other two wake up, they won't even have to know I tried. As long as Samuel doesn't know, he can't look at me like I'm something special. I turn the corner, but the door to Saul's apartment is already sliding open. Did he have a similar idea? Was he coming to talk to me? The person who emerges is too tall to be Saul. Saul only lives with one other person. Saul's father slinks out of the apartment. He looks over both of his shoulders uneasily and turns the corner. I'm stunned. I remember the rumors that were sprouting about him. When I had heard about him being a sympathizer of the Talkers movement, I hadn't thought about what that might entail. To some degree, I hadn't even believed it at all. Does Saul know? Talking to Saul is going to have to wait. Breathe. I can't jump to conclusions. His suspicious behavior doesn't look promising for his reputation, however. I start after him. His loose-fitted wrap shirt billows out behind him, and I catch sight of it just as he disappears again. I leap after him. The wind will cover the sound of my footsteps. So long as I stay far enough away, he probably won't notice me. I'm so caught up with my chase that I almost make the mistake of stumbling into him. I hunker back into the alleyway just as he looks over his shoulder. I realize that I've never actually seen Saul's father before. He looks like an older version of Saul. He has reddish blonde hair, pale blue eyes, and a bulking figure. At the moment, though, the comparison stops there. His eyes are frantic and his cheeks are sunken. He coughs in an attempt to catch his breath. Like most people on Yawk, he's out of shape. He stumbles forward, but I hesitate. The only thing in this direction is the landing bay. But what could he have to do there? To my knowledge, there's nobody in Unit B who is qualified to fly a transporter craft besides myself. At least, I've never seen anyone else use a transporter craft. I rub my eyes to make sure I'm seeing correctly. He's just standing there in front of the landing bay doors. The Gromptu chirp a bit in their Lavindian tongue. I wonder if they are just as confused as I am, but it's impossible to tell. The massive doors lift with a groan that could have been heard all over Unit B if the wind were not so loud. I must have been wrong. Someone else on Yawk must be able to pilot a transporter craft, or why else would he be here? Saul's father disappears through the doors. The alarm indicating that the doors are about to close starts to blare. If I go now, I'm taking the chance he might see me, but if I wait, I'll lose sight of him. I rush the space between myself and the doors. The Gromptu at the door ruffle their feathers, but they are used to seeing me, so they don't try to stop me. To my relief, Saul's father isn't entering the craft that I flew from Unit C to Unit B. At least he hasn't been taking mysterious trips in my craft. It would have been embarrassing if I hadn't noticed that before. Technically, none of the crafts are mine. They're all the Lavindians and can be used by any certified humans. Any command key would work for any craft, but I have a personal attachment to the craft I voyaged here on. I notice that the craft door lowers without him using a command key, so someone else is inside. I can barely fight my curiosity. The door to Saul's craft lifts and seals behind him. I push back my thin beige sleeves and look at the command key wrapped around my wrist. I press my thumb to it and whisper, "Open craft door." The hatch lowers, and I slip inside. What's the plan? I look over the small interior of my blocky-looking craft. There's a massive bench in the middle of the craft, which looks at the display screen. There isn't actually any windscreen on the craft. It just shows me a projection of the outside. I slide into the bench, which was obviously constructed for a much larger species. I imagine that these crafts were probably owned by a conquered race and sent to us because they are clumsy and poorly made. If I move too quickly, the viewer screen of Saul's father's craft will pick me up in space. I can afford to wait. It's not like I don't know where the craft is going. There is only one place they can go, and I know exactly how much time it will take them to get there. The landing bay doors open, and I watch the other transporter spit itself clunkily into space. Whoever is piloting the other craft clearly hasn't put the love and maintenance into their craft that I have. The Gromtu could technically do the work for me, but I enjoy having something to do, and they've never stopped me from doing it. I set my transporter craft to launch just as the other craft should reach Yabi's surface, and now I wait. The engine stirs in anticipation. I lay back on the bench to think. Saul's father looks like more than just a talker sympathizer to me. I haven't seen him jabbering like a twit on a crate before, so is he connected to them? I bite my knuckle thoughtfully. The guy's Mon might be right. Anything connected with the talkers is probably dangerous. I start to doubt myself. I followed Saul's father out of curiosity, but this might be linking me to something more treacherous. They always say curiosity killed the cat. I don't know what a cat is, but maybe that's the point. Maybe they all got killed by curiosity. I sit up to stop the engines of my craft from engaging. I don't think I should do this, I say out loud to myself. I scratch at the back of my hand anxiously. Samuel's worried face pops into my mind. It'll be all right, I had promised. It's too late. The preset timer goes off, and the craft automatically launches itself past the landing bay doors. I could turn the ship around, but it's already set to autopilot. I could take it off autopilot, but I'm already on my way. The yellow planet glows on the viewer screen. I lay back down on the bench again. If Yalk is dust, Yabi is sand. The Yabians tell me that there are places on Yabi which aren't all sand, but there's no landing pad for my craft there. Yabians have offered before to take me to the brighter sides of Yabi on sand paddlers, commercial vehicles that roll over the dunes, but I imagine they'd be more likely to rob me and leave me for dead in the middle of the dunes. That's the one common theme about Yabians. They're greedy little merchants that would sell their own soul if it meant they could make some bounty. I assume that selling their souls has something to do with the reason they're able to autonomously sell in the marketplace. Maybe I'm underestimating them, though. Maybe they manage to swindle even the Levindians. Like all planets in the galaxy, Yabi is owned by the Levindians, but it is special because, for the most part, it isn't run by Levindians. It is run instead by what is called the second generation of Levindians. The second gens aren't necessarily like them. However, it isn't all that unheard of for a second gen to take on the horrific habits of their forefathers. To my knowledge, the second gens give a good deal of leeway to the crafty little Yabian natives. It's impossible, of course, to tell a second gen from a Yabian native. That's how the Levindians work. It is impossible to tell a Levindian from anyone else because Levindian isn't a single species. The best that is understood is that the conquering race has some ability to take over the bodies of those they conquer. They live forever at the expense of their conquered people. No one knows what the original Levindian species looks like, and many believe that the original Levindian species completely died out centuries ago because of their preference for other species. I've always thought that if that were true, it would be incredibly ironic. Second gens are any of the following generations born to the original Levindian souls. Seconds are the lucky children. Levindians inhabit whatever bodies they want to, which has consequences if they want to reproduce. Any child born to them while they're in another body has the instincts, mentality, and mental capacity only of that species. If the species is similar to that of their original Levindian race, then they are raised as Levindians, given second-gen authority, and are allowed the privilege of using conquered bodies. Third gens or thirds are the unlucky ones. If the species their child is born into isn't compatible with their own, the child is abandoned or shunned by the Lavindian society. They, however, are lucky in the fact that they aren't going to be used for their bodies, and they can hold positions for the Lavindians. Thirds don't last long. They're not embraced by their own species or the Lavindians. Suicide frequently occurs across all species of thirds. This is all common knowledge, but for me, it's impossible to tell if anyone is any type of Lavindian unless they come out and admit it, which of course they never do. Emmanuel is quick to call the Gromtu turds, but there's no way of knowing whether they are second or third generation. Sand quickly finds its way into the folds of my fabric-wrapped feet. I learned not to take the fabric off my feet on my first trip to Yabi. That just encourages Yabi's smaller, insectoid inhabitants to come looking for a nibble. It took almost 3 days before I could walk without hobbling. The booth in the marketplace can be as small as a single table or as large as a tent canopy. I step off the landing pad and jog toward one of the booths. A native Yabian with naturally purple-tinted skin and orange-brown hair looks up at me. He grins his orange teeth. "Human being," he says with outstretched arms. "Hey, Sabo, you been watching the landing pads?" As always. He grins wider, seeing a financial opportunity. I flip a piece of bounty from my pocket and set the value of the coin to 15. The green coin sits on the counter of his booth, glinting in the sun. A triangle touchpad in the center indicates its worth. "Human being, you always understand me so well. How can I assist you with my vast wealth of information?" There was a Yalkian transporter craft that landed here just before me. I'm sure that wasn't beneath your notice. Flattering Sabo is always a good strategy. "Of course! I thought it was you, but it was 2 different human beings. That one human being has been bringing people here for days. They think we don't notice that they haven't been leaving, but we do. We keep track of everything. Everything is business, and everything is our business." I have to force myself not to roll my eyes at the Yabian mantra. I press the bounty coin on the table, but don't take my thumb off of it. "Where are they camping out, Sabo?" "It would be immoral to reveal where a secret meeting would be carrying out and when it would be happening," he pouts comically, and glances down at the coin under my thumb. I double tap it, and the number goes up to 25. Sabo smiles toothily. "But it would be terribly immoral to not help an old friend reach his human being friends. Your friends are camping in the green canopy-style tent in the southwestern market. You'll know it when you see it. The canopy is too dark for Yabian colors. For a secret meeting, they did choose a suspicious tent." It is bad that even Sabo, whose booth is in the southern market, knows that the talkers are trying to have a secret meeting. Saul's father and his friends are being more than a little sloppy. My blood rushes. If Sabo knows, everyone on Yabi knows. The Yabians might not care about what they are doing, but there are sure to be thirds and second gens hovering on the planet. If it is profitable for the Yabians to tell the thirds and second gens where the talkers are, they will tell the Lavindians before the bounty hits the table. I double tap the coin again to encourage our future business and leave it on the table. "Human being, wait!" he calls after me. I stop. He plays with the coin nervously in his hands. "Human being, if these friends of yours are not close friends, I would not go to the green tent this evening." For a moment, I don't move, but then I smile and nod. I watch him dematerialize my coin into his computer panel. I wonder if he told me this information because he feels some kind of actual kinship to me, or if he just wanted to make sure I was alive to secure future business. Either way, the information he just gave me says a lot. It means that the Levindians are more than aware of what is happening this evening, and that doesn't bode well. I knew that figuring out where Saul's father was going was the easy part. The hard part is navigating through Yabi's crowds. For a lot of conquered species, Yabi is the only marketplace available for them. The recreational planet lures all kinds of creatures whose species I don't know the name of, and I have no plans of asking them. The best knowledge to have on Yabi is which species to stay clear of, and I'm happy to know just that alone. Command key, show southwest. The command key projects an arrow just above my wrist. I follow the crowd flow. Even aggressive species follow the crowd flow. If you don't, navigating Yabi is impossible. The downside of this is that sometimes to go southwest, you have to go another direction. There are no straight lines to go anywhere on Yabi. There's nothing that can describe the noise on the planet. Arriving on Yabi for the first time, you quickly learn that there are species capable of making sounds that you never could have imagined existed. On Yalk, everything is so quiet that the windy atmosphere outside drowns out the sound. On Yabi, there is a cacophony of trills, honks, growls, hisses, chirps, and clicks. Once I was next to a creature that made a noise so shrill I was nearly deaf for several hours. One Yabian moon sets, and two more rise from the north. It's growing dark when I see the top of the dark green tent canopy. Sabo was right. It stands out terribly. The tent they've chosen is meant for the winter climate. I can tell because there are 2 layers of tenting. I'm sure the talkers chose it for privacy, but there's no reason for privacy on Yabi. Yabians want to gain prospective buyers' attention, so if they have a booth with any type of covering at this time of year, it's going to be a bright-colored net curtain that allows merchandise to be visible. The winter tent in front of me is meant to block out wind and sand, so the outside is solid and thick. There is a second inner layer called a thermal screen, which locks in heat. Normally, the winter tents are painted with images and descriptions of the merchandise inside. The bare, closed-off tent walls look horribly suspicious. A knot forms in my stomach. I walk around the back of the tent and lift a stake from the ground. I slip between the 2 layers to listen to the inside. It's hot. The space I find myself in is only as wide as my forearm. I'm not as thin and lanky as Samuel, and for the first time I can see the advantage of being built that way. At least I'm not stocky like Emmanuel. Beads of sweat form on my forehead and drip down my cheeks. Sweat leaks into my eyes and it stings. I don't dare wipe it away because the movement could make the thermal screen ripple. I put my ear close to the thermal screen and try to block out the sounds of the Yabian marketplace. Nothing. At least the sun is setting. If it were much brighter out, I would start baking in here. Sweat runs down my leg and it itches. I want to reach down and scratch, but I'm not about to be found snooping around. Instead, I focus on the ray of light shining through the curtain. It's already beginning to sink down. Sunset on Yabi happens fast. Sabo said that the meeting is this evening. Maybe they found out that the Levindians suspected them and decided not to come. That would be good. Sweat tickles my ear, and I toss my head uselessly. What am I doing here anyway? This is stupid. What do I have to gain from knowing what they're doing here? What about Saul? I shake the thought from my head. Risking my safety for someone else is stupid. I'm just here because I'm curious. I don't do anything for anyone else's sake. I proved that when I went to Unit B. I can't talk to a talker without the risk of being seen as a sympathizer. But hiding here between the tent and the thermal screen, I can listen. This is an opportunity, that's all. The ray of light reaches my feet. I wiggle my toes at it. Now my sweat is cool. The tent in front of me tremors. For a second, I almost think that I imagined it. But raspy breaths come from inside the tent. My heart flips. I don't know whether to be excited or worried. Since they've decided to come, they must not know that everyone on Yabi knows what they're doing. I clench my damp hands into fists. It looks as though Abraham has not arrived. The voice is soft and young. No scat. The second voice has to be Saul's father. I've heard that gruff bark yelling after Saul before. Maybe I should tell them now. I can sneak into the inner tent, warn them, and then slip out the back before being noticed. The tent rustles again, and I freeze instinctively. "Rachel," the young man whispers. "Thank goodness they didn't get you." "No," comes the soft and tired voice of the new arrival. "They didn't, but that was too close. I can't keep scrambling the travel logs. They're eventually going to look into those couple seconds of signal distortion. The Grom-2 may look slow, but they are Lavindians just the same. All Lavindians are clever bastards, no matter what ranking they are or what form they take." "Rachel is right," says a deeper voice, who must have entered with Rachel. I recognize his voice. He's one of the talkers who goes on the crates. I think his name is Benjamin, but I can't be sure. "We can't keep coming to Yabi to meet like this. It's safer than Yalk, but this place is still crawling with second gens. That's not even including the second gens who aren't openly second, or any Lavindians which might be lurking here completely unidentifiable." If only he knew how right he is. I try once again to stir up the courage to go into the tent, but I'm frozen solid. If I go in, I've helped them. The Lavindians are terrifying creatures. No one has ever seen their true form because they take on the bodies of their conquered people. A Lavindian could appear as anything or anyone at any time. One of these people inside the tent could already be... I bite my tongue at my cowardice. "There's no point in being careful. We are only delaying the inevitable," Saul's father growls. "You're all fools if you think we'll be around much longer. The Lavindians likely already know what we're doing. For all the hell we know, we're already infiltrated, and one of us isn't even one of us anymore. Oh, and Isaiah, don't start with the whole code system again." I assume that Isaiah must be the younger man. "Rachel is fantastic at running codes to us, but if one of us were found out and taken in, we all know the Lavindians could get the codes or any other information that they wanted from us." "If you believe we're going to be caught, then why are you here?" Isaiah shoots back. "Isaiah," Rachel says softly. "I'm here, nitprick, because Abraham told me to be here. If I'm already done, then I might as well keep a promise to my oldest friend." The whole tent shakes, and I almost fall into the room. I steady myself the best I can, hoping that they're all too distracted to notice my mistake. "Abraham!" Rachel gasps. Abraham's voice is warm and deep. "They have us. You all have to go. We have the coordinates of the red planet. Each of you, take a slip now with the coordinates on it. We'll each go to our assigned safe houses, but I think it's unlikely that the Lavindians aren't already there." "What's the point of a safe house if it isn't safe?" No one answers Benjamin. I hear paper rustling. The red planet? The coordinates? It's time for me to leave. If I don't get out of here, I'm going to be trapped with them. What if they associate me with them just because I'm on Yabi? Cold sweat starts to pour down my back. "But Abraham, this is madness!" It's Isaiah's voice. Abraham ignores him as well. "Go now. If you are trapped, try to pass the coordinates on to someone. It doesn't matter whom it's passed. We have to believe that if the information is available, the right hands will find it. Don't let this die here. We've worked too long to find the coordinates. The historians are within our reach. They're our last chance to hear the story. This is the only direction we can hope to press forward. This might be humanity's last chance. Go! Go now!" The tent rustles as someone tries to flee. I'm shaking. There's a sudden cry of surprise, and then silence. "They're already here," Rachel breathes in. "I'm sorry," Abraham whispers. I think I hear tears in his voice. Don't sweat it, Abe. We had a good run. No. No, no, no. I want to scream. I want to run, but nothing happens. It's just like the dream where I reach out to Karen but can never touch her. There's no sound as it enters the tent, but I see its glowing eyes through the thermal layer. All of my blood drains to my feet and makes them heavy. A light flashes, and the inner tent is suddenly illuminated, revealing the solemn black outline of a single Gromptu. The mysterious white light flashes again, and I'm blinded. I shouldn't move, but I can't help but touch my eyes. I can't get the image out of my mind. It's burnt on the back of my eyelids. I see the dark lumps lying on the ground motionlessly. There's no way to run now. The brightness starts to fade from my eyes, and everything seems darker than before in the aftermath of the blazing light. Still, there's a soft glow coming from inside the tent. I squint to see it better. My breath catches in my lungs. A pair of white eyes floats inside the tent. It sees me. I swallow hard. I'm trapped. My heart thunders in my chest, so loud that it can probably hear it too. I breathe in and shut my eyes. It was fast. Whatever it did to them was fast. I'm sorry, Karen. Minutes pass. I open my eyes. The Gromptu is gone. Had it not seen me after all? No. I know for certain that it had. I hadn't imagined that. My knees collapse. I fall into the room and violently vomit. My stomach emptied. I blink my eyes to adjust to the darkness. There's a stillness to the room that's unlike any other I've ever felt before. I crawl towards Saul's father, who lays face first on the floor. His pale blue eyes are the same shade as Saul's. My chest tightens. I put my hand on his back, but I fail to feel the rise of air going through his lungs. The life is gone from him, but I can't see any wounds to patch up. It's like the white light just swallowed the life from his body. She is the most shocking. The young woman, who must have been Rachel, has warm olive skin and red lips. Like Saul's father, there's no mark on her to explain how she was killed. Her black ringlets of hair spill out across the ground. Underneath her hair, I can see the slip of paper they exchanged caught between two of her slender fingers. I stumble toward her, and my nausea returns. I brush away the web of hair covering the paper. Her fingertips are still warm as I take the coordinates from her. I would have remembered seeing someone as shockingly beautiful as she is. My stomach turns. Whatever passionate life she had lived is now gone. If I had known I would see this, would I still have followed them to Yabi? My head spins. I stagger up to my feet and back out of the tent. It's dark. None of it feels like it's real. Business changes on Yabi in the night. The streets aren't crowded. The curtains on the tents all come down, and the customers are either nocturnal or customers who would have reasons for not wanting to be seen in the daylight. In the night, there are people on Yabi like the talkers, people that are involved in race wars unapproved by the Lavindian government, and privateers. Privateers are second or third gens who operate almost completely free of Lavindian control. They steal from Lavindian allies, which are unknown to me, under the guise of being terrorists. I wonder how many of the shrouded figures are Lavindians or war criminals, and shiver. I'm made aware of how inappropriate it is for me to be here. It will be a long walk to the transporter craft. I numbly trudge back in the direction of the craft. The shock that stagnates my mind somehow still allows my feet to keep going. All right, that was chapter 2. I really hope you enjoyed it. That was a much longer chapter than the first one, so hopefully you are still awake. And if you are excited for chapter 3, let me know by telling me in the comments. I will see you soon.